So joining us now for a CNBC exclusive is Nucor Chair and CEO Leon Topalian. Leon, it's great to have you back on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Morgan. Great to be here.
So let's start right there. What did you see in the second quarter with rising raw material costs? How's it affecting Nucor? How much of this is tied to the tariffs and the tariffs rising during the quarter to 50%?
You know, look, I would tell you the impact in Q2 to the overall tariffs was pretty minimal. Raw materials impact as well, pretty minimal. It was a good quarter, far better than Q1. But again, the drivers behind that, the demand drivers in the economy for us remain really robust. The non-res construction markets, the data center, the advanced manufacturing, energy all remain stable or improving. And again, we've got in many cases record backlogs. And again, the order entry rates for our products are in some cases at all-time highs.
So on a day where there's a lot of focus on reindustrialization, and we're seeing the continuation of trade talks, in particular today regarding the U.S. and China, you see signs that the economic backdrop here in the U.S. is strong?
Yeah, certainly we do. And again, as we approach the back half of the year, we think it'll be strong. And I think what you're seeing with the administration today is a pro-manufacturing and pro-America trade policies from President Trump, Secretary Ludnick, and our USTR, Jamison Greer. And so I think many of those are going to continue to bring reshoring back. And at the end of the day, Nucor sits really at the tip of that spear to be able to repower, reshore, and rebuild America. We have the products, diversity, strength as one of the most sustainable, safest, and most profitable steel and steel products companies in the world.
Do 50% tariffs on imported steel help to do that?
Yeah, certainly. And again, I think that's a good first step. But I think it's a beginning to a much broader trade conversation, right? It's the 232 and the tariffs are a good first step in a world of oversupply in steel. But it's ultimately to bring the other nations to the negotiating table and come up with a better trading agreement with the United States. We're seeing that over the weekend with the UK, EU, and certainly, as you mentioned, talks with China.
You've been making huge investments for a number of years. What does the current policy landscape enable in terms of realizing those or making further domestic investments?
You know, I couldn't be more excited about our future, Morgan. And to your point, we've invested about $20 billion that will culminate with the startup of our steel mill in Mason County, West Virginia, which will be one of the most state-of-the-art sheet mills built anywhere in the world. And so we're really just now beginning to realize those earnings in the new mill in Lexington, North Carolina that just started up, our new mill in Kingman, Arizona, galvanizing lines in our California plant, Indiana plants, and Nucor Steel Berkeley, as well as many, many other investments. So again, we're just on the throes now where you're going to see the pent-up earnings power of Nucor transforming to create higher highs and higher lows for our shareholders.
You know, historically, or I guess I should say at least in recent years, it has been China that has sort of dictated or driven the prices we've seen in industrial metals, including steel. Are we seeing a divergence between that pricing here in the U.S. and the rest of the world?
You know, I think you're beginning to see some. And again, China poses a lot of different issues. They have dumped and illegally dumped and subsidized their steels onto the shores of the U.S. for a long time. And while we have many trade cases that we've won, regardless of the administration being Republican or Democrat, and we will continue to advocate for that, now we fight the fight of does that find its way to other shores, or are we seeing that transfer into other nations that ultimately comes here? So we've got to remain vigilant. And again, I think in a supply-demand environment with a commodity product like steel, price is ultimately going to be dictated here in the U.S. by our consumers.